How we doing, guys? Welcome to DT's Daily. Now, on today's show, we're going to be talking about last night's big game in the Bundesliga, which was Borussia Dortmund against Bayern Munich. We're also going to be taking a look at a report by a leading scientist over claims that the Atletico Madrid and Liverpool game and the Cheltenham Festival resulted in more deaths from coronavirus. And the last piece of news involves Newcastle United because their takeover is in serious jeopardy.
I represent my fucking self.
How we doing, guys? Welcome to DT's Daily. That's right. So the first place we're going to start is that big game in the Bundesliga last night. And I'll tell you something, what a game that was. Not lots of goals, but the intensity and everything else about that game was absolutely brilliant. And Bayern Munich won the game 1-0. Now, the opening 10 minutes, 15 minutes of that game, Borussia Dortmund were absolutely brilliant. And they had some chances. But Haaland was very off the radar, shall we say. And didn't look up to his usual standards in the game. But Bayern Munich started to get a foothold in the game. And then just before half-time, Kimmich, what a goal. It was like watching a Dennis Bergkamp finish. Little dink over the keeper. I do think that he should have got a stronger hand to it. But just before half-time, that was the perfect time to score a goal. In the second half, I think Borussia Dortmund flattered to deceive. Jadon Sancho come on and I was not impressed by him in any way, shape or form. I felt that he looked very unfit, to be quite honest. And always on the edge, not really got himself involved in the game. And it just wasn't a great performance all round. Bayern Munich, on the other hand, something must have been said to them at half-time because they came out a completely different team. And they are such a well-oiled machine. And they were quicker to the ball. They were pressing, they were passing, they were moving. Everything was just quicker. Every time Bayern Munich, were sitting on top of the Borussia Dortmund players, Dortmund would try to play out. Bayern Munich players were there. Borussia Dortmund players would try to play through the midfield. Bayern Munich players were there. It was constant. And they kept that intensity up for the whole of the second half, 45 minutes. And they were deserved winners all day long. Dortmund had a couple of little chances. I suppose the one incident in the game that we're not really talking about, but I'm surprised we're not talking about, was a possible handball by Boateng. It was an effort on goal and he was laying down and Haaland had the shot. Now, if he was stationary and laying in a straight position and it hits his arm, then there's no debate. There's no penalty. But he actually leaned in towards the ball. And the more I looked at it, the more I was like, that's a penalty. And quite a lot of people agree as well. That should have been a penalty. But it didn't even go to VAR. Surprisingly, I don't think any Dortmund players appealed. And it happened so fast that maybe that was the reason why. But that would have changed the game because Dortmund get a penalty, bring it back to 1-1 with 25 minutes or so to play. The game's there for the taking. And, Bayern Munich, they moved 7 points clear now of Dortmund. RB Leipzig are only 3 points behind Dortmund in second place. And obviously Leipzig sit third. They play tonight. They win that. They go above Borussia Dortmund. And I don't think anyone's going to be catching Bayern Munich now, to be quite honest with you. 7 points is too much. They're too good a side. They're so well drilled, man. What a team they are. And they fully deserve the win. But the game itself, it wasn't a 1-0 game. It was a really, really good game. Really intense. And I really enjoyed that game. It'd be nice if there were some fans in the stadium. We could hear a crowd. But beggars can't be choosers. It was just an enjoyable game to watch. So, yeah, at the end, in the comment section, let me know what you think about that game. And did you enjoy it if you did watch it? And it was pretty much the same old. Borussia Dortmund, they beat everybody right up till they need to beat Munich. And then they ultimately fail. And Bayern Munich, they just do what they always do, which is grind out the results, efficient, well drilled, And it looks like they're going to win another title in Germany, that's for sure. But brilliant game. Brilliant game. Next piece of news is a bit of an interesting one. And it's something that was said at the Times and how crazy it seems. But right before lockdown, Liverpool had a Champions League match at home against Atletico Madrid. And there was, of course, the Cheltenham Festival. Now, for all of you that don't know about the Cheltenham Festival, it's racehorsing. And it's held over about 3 or 4 days, I think it is. And there are thousands that turn up. Well, Liverpool's Champions League match and the Cheltenham Festival contributed to an increase in the coronavirus deaths in the UK, a scientist has said. Professor Tim Spector from King's College London said the two events held in March had caused increased suffering and death that wouldn't otherwise have occurred. He said data from an app used to record COVID-19 symptoms showed that Cheltenham and the Northwest became key hotspots for the coronavirus. Despite several European countries and cities already being in lockdown, by the time the sports fixture took place, Prime Minister Boris Johnson waited until March the 23rd to announce his own stay-at-home message in the UK. More than 251,000 people attended the Cheltenham Festival from March the 16th to the 19th. Liverpool's exit from the last 16 of the Champions League on March the 11th was watched by around 52,000 people inside Anfield, including 3,000 visiting supporters who had travelled from Madrid, where such events had already been suspended. By the time Mr Johnson ordered the lockdown, the number of coronavirus cases in the UK stood at 6,500 and the number of deaths was 336. Since then, nearly 37,000 people have died in the UK. The disease caused by coronavirus, and there have been more than 262,000 cases. That's not great reading when you see it. And I remember at the time, and I looked at the Liverpool game in particular, and you know, Madrid was in lockdown and everything else, and you know, the games were finishing, but yet they were allowed to travel all the way over to England, no problems. Turn up at the airport, in you come lads, no worries at all, no screening, no testing, off you go. 3,000 of them, and another 49, 50 odd thousand Liverpool fans, all amongst each other. It's just baffling why that game went ahead with fans in attendance. I still don't get it. Honestly don't. And Cheltenham, over 200,000 people turned up over the course of 3 days. And you wonder why so many people died and why so many people got ill because of the coronavirus. The amount of people that were there. Absolute stupidity. Call it off. Race it with no fans there. You can sit at home and put the bets on. I know it's not the same being there. It's not the same being at a football match, is it? We all have to miss out. So why shouldn't they have missed out? This is my argument from the very beginning. This government never done their job properly. It's all well and good saying Boris done all right and he did this and that at the right, moments when he should have done. But from the very beginning, they did it wrong. It's all well and good doing it eventually, but they should have done it from the beginning. And then we may not have had the situation that we've had. And we may not be in the situation we are in. We might be out of lockdown now. We might have been able to get through it and deal with it quicker. It's one of those. It's interesting. And, he's an actual scientist. And, who am I to say any differently? Us that are watching this and me talking and everything else. It's one of those, man. I'll tell you something. When this is all over with, I never want to hear COVID-19 or coronavirus ever again. It's like part of my vocabulary. It's like stuck and etched in the brain. And you've got to feel for all those people that are affected. And you've got to feel for all of those people that have died. Over 30,000 people in this country alone. And then you add Spain and Italy and America and everywhere else around the world. Absolutely devastating. Unbelievable. And I've never seen nothing like it in my lifetime. I doubt I'll see anything else like this again in my lifetime. But yeah, look, it is what it is, and there's no way we can go back. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. And nobody should have been in attendance. There shouldn't have been over 50,000 in Anfield, and there shouldn't have been over 200,000 in Cheltenham. It's as simple as that. Last piece of news involves Newcastle, and of course Newcastle fans have been getting very excited at the thought of being taken over and Mike Ashley finally leaving and then being able to spend unlimited amounts of money. But it may not go ahead just yet, and they might still have to keep biding their time and putting up with Mike Ashley, because the controversial £300 million Saudi Arabia funded takeover appears to be in serious doubt after the World Trade Organization ruled that the country is behind a pirate satellite TV and streaming service that offers illegal access to sporting events. While the WTO's 130-page final report will not be published until mid-June, it is understood that the independent ruling firmly established that the Saudi government is behind BUNDESLIGA. It can also be revealed that the Premier League, which received the WTO report this month, made submissions against Saudi Arabia as part of the legal process. Previously, FIFA, UEFA, the Premier League, La Liga and others have tried to take legal action against the BUNDESLIGA in Saudi Arabia for illegally streaming matches, but 9 local legal firms declined to take on the copyright issue case. Subsequently, a case against Saudi Arabia was taken to the WTO, the highest judicial body that can rule on this matter. It has now issued its ruling, finding that Saudi Arabia is in breach of international law as a result of the BUNDESLIGA. The development will raise fundamental questions about whether Newcastle United's mooted takeover, which would lead to Saudi Arabia's public investment fund taking 80% stake in the club, with PCP Capital Partners and the property developers David and Simon Rubin taking 10% each, will pass the Premier League owners and directors test. That test can be failed if a crime is committed overseas that would also be one in the UK. It is also made clear to prospective owners that false, misleading or inaccurate information cannot be submitted to the Premier League. So this is not great, and one part of this that's quite telling is that the Premier League, along with FIFA, UEFA and La Liga, have all actually tried taking this organisation to court over illegal streaming. And we all know the problems over illegal streaming, and the Premier League and all these other big leagues and everything else have huge deals in place, and that's why 3 PM games are not being shown and all this kind of stuff. And it's a strange one, man, because you're looking at that, and how can the Premier League be filing a case against an organisation because they've committed a crime, and then on the other hand they go and sanction the takeover when part of the deal is that they can't have committed a crime in another country which would be deemed a crime in this country? Well, of course it's a crime, and of course the Premier League think it's a crime because they filed a case against them. So how are they going to work that one out? Interesting. And Newcastle fans, if any of you are watching, what do you think about this? This is a big development, and it might not be plain sailing, and you may not be getting rid of Mike Ashley, and you may not be buying all the greatest players in the world, and that's a touchy one, to be quite honest with you. And I'll be very, very interested to see what Newcastle fans think. So again, if any of you are watching, let me know in the comment section what you think. So there we go. That is it for today's DT's Daily. Again, let me know in the comment section what you think. Especially Newcastle fans, very interesting. And of course, let me know what you thought of the Dortmund against Bayern Munich game. If you're new around here, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you smash a like on this video. And I will see you lot tomorrow. I'm out of here.